Hello, am I audible? Hello, hello, anybody is there? Okay, so today we are going to learn risk and return analysis of portfolio. If we want to understand risk and return of portfolio, we have to learn why we, we have a risk and mainly what is the connection between risk and return and individual security and portfolio? So let's begin with risk. First of all, the future is uncertain. Nobody can predict the future. Your future may be uncertain and many times you can calculate something for that one. But generally, future is uncertain due to some reasons that we are going to learn. Second thing is investors do not know with certainty whether the economy will be growing rapidly or in recession. So if the government is keen and taking all the precautionary measure and adding new and new schemes for the development of the economy, then definitely economy will grow. And if the government has no planning or may having the planning, but the implementation of that planning is poor, then obviously your economy may be in recession. And many times what happens? Your economy, your government, they are proper. But there is some defect in global economy. And obviously that economy will also reflect to your economy. So don't consider only national economy, consider global economy also. Third thing is investors do not know what rate of return their investment will yield. So if you invest your money in fixed deposit or in debt security, that time your rate of return is fixed. But if you invest your money in stock market, then many times the investors have no idea how much return they can enjoy. So they are unable to predict the rate of return. But generally, by experience, they can learn how much they can expect. Another thing is, therefore, they base their decision on their expectations concerning the future. So if the person is in the stock market since last 60 years, then he analyzed the past data. And as per the past data, he predicts for the future that in previous year he enjoyed suppose 20% return and year by year it is increasing by 2%. Then obviously for this year, he predicts comparatively more return than the last year return. So this is also one of the thing. Now let's try to understand the simple meaning of risk. Risk is everywhere, and risk is in every walks of life. Without risk, nobody can lead the life. Obviously, you can minimize the risk, but let's try to understand the simple meaning of risk. The possibility that an actual return will differ from expected return. This is the simple meaning. Now, let's try to understand the meaning of this sentence. Suppose your expected return is 20% and your actual return is only 10%. So, variability is 10%. So, 10% is your risk. So, if expected return is 20% and your real return is only 5%, then risk is high. So this way you can measure the risk. So far as our finance is concerned, we can say the probability that an actual return on an investment will be lower than the expected return. So this is also the same thing. Here they consider probability. In statistic, you learn probability. Probability for how many percentage that you have to calculate. So probability that an actual return on an investment will be lower. If it is higher, then no risk. But if it is lower, then expected return, so that much is your risk. In another term, we can say that uncertainty in the distribution of possible outcomes. Uncertainty in distribution means when you distribute income or dividend or anything of possible outcome, that is also considered as a risk. So this is the simple meaning of risk. Now let's try to understand return. In simple term, we can say that return means the income which you received on an investment plus any changes in market price. So suppose you bought ICICI Bank equity 1 year back, and that time you purchased 100 shares of ICICI Bank. Now, the company declared the dividend of 5 rupees per share. So, how many rupees you will enjoy? 100 into 5 means 500. This is the first thing. Now, changes in market price. Changes in market price means when you purchase the security, that time price was 200 rupees. So your investment means 200 into 100, and in after 1 year the price is 300 rupees. So the market value of your investment is 300 into 100. So per security you enjoyed 100 rupees. 100 rupees into 100 shares plus 500 rupees is your dividend. So this way you can find out return on your investment. Now usually when you talk about the return, that time that return expressed as a percentage. So if you consider multiply by 100, then it is in percentage of the beginning market price of the investment. So Our formula is return R equal to DT means dividend plus PT means closing price or end price minus beginning price divide by beginning price, then you can find out return. If you multiply by 100, then it is in percentage. But now keep in mind one thing. Many times investors are under the impression that if the investment return is in percentage, then suppose the face value of the equity is 10 rupees and he purchased in 100 rupees, then he feels that I will enjoy interest or dividend on 100 rupees. It is not like that. That is always on face value. So now government made one rule that always declare the dividend on number of shares so that the person can understand how many rupees he will enjoy. So these changes you have to keep in mind. Now another thing is investment returns. So investment return means first consider single security return and total sum of all securities return is equal to total return of your portfolio. So let's try to understand investment return. First of all, investment returns measure the financial results of an investment. So whatever money you invested and the result of that investment is considered as a return. So keep in mind, we are talking about financial securities, but in your portfolio, fixed assets are there. You invested your money in fixed assets, financial asset, and any other gold, platinum, silver. So total return of all these securities return. But right now we consider financial investment and return of that financial investments. Second thing is return may be historical or anticipated. So historical return means your past return. Suppose you are in stock market since last 10 years. So forget this year. For 9 years return is historical return for you. But if you want to find out historical return of particular security, then you have to investigate. First of all, IPO date, then year wise, how many percentage or per share, how much dividend they distributed, and for changes of price, consider 31st March price and compare that price with 1st April. This way, per year, the fluctuation in price that also you can find out. Per month also you can find out. And anticipated return means what the investor is expecting from that investment. Another thing is return can be expressed in rupees terms and percentage terms. I gave you the example. Suppose you bought 100 shares of ICICI. Then per share, company declared 10 rupees dividend. So 10 rupees per share into you have 100 shares. So 100 multiply by 10, that is in terms of rupees. And in percentage means suppose your total investment is 20,000 rupees and on 20,000 rupees you enjoyed 1,000 rupees. Then you can find out in percentage 20,000 equal to 2000, then how much for 100? Then you can find out in percentage terms. In both way, you can find out return. Now, investment risk, first of all, typically, investment returns are not known with certainty. That I explained you. Another thing, investment risk pertains to the probability of earning a return less than expected. That is also I explained you. Third thing, the greater the chance of a return for below the expected return, the greater the risk. So, if the probability of return is very lower than expected return, then risk is more. If the probability of actual return is more and comparatively it is very nearer to your expected return, then risk is low. So you have to consider this risk in the context of expected return and actual return. There are two types of risk. One is absolute risk and second one is real rate of return. And absolute return and real rate of return. Both way you can consider. Suppose if you learn absolute zero and relative zero, same way consider absolute return and real rate of return. Absolute means the exact company which is distributing. And real rate of return, I gave you the example. So suppose the face value is 10 and that is your return. Now you invested 20,000 rupees and then you got that much. So your real rate of return in percentage is comparatively low. This way you can find out. Now, if we consider risk, then we can divide this risk in two different categories. And keep in mind, we are the students of finance. So, till death, we have to consider and remember all these risks. Without that, you can't judge the rate of return on your investment. Let's try to understand the simple meaning of systematic. Systematic means step by step. Unsystematic means haphazard. This is the dictionary meaning. But when we consider systematic risk, that time it is uncontrollable by organization. Means none of the organization can control systematic risk and they are supposed to take systematic risk. Nobody can say that I can avoid systematic risk. They have to take. It is compulsory. And systematic risk is macro in nature, while unsystematic risk it is controllable by an organization. Means if you have knowledge and you know the government policy and in which direction government is interested to go, that time you can link your ideas and you can manage your planning as per the government policy and you can minimize this unsystematic risk up to some extent. That's why it is known as controllable. And it is obviously, if it is controllable, then it is macro in nature. So we have to study both these types of risk and future also you have to understand this risk, systematic and unsystematic risk. So systematic risk, is the variability of return on stock or portfolios associated with changes in return on the market as a whole. So that is affected to complete market. No one can say that systematic risk affecting me only. It affects the complete market. And unsystematic risk is the variability of return on stocks of portfolio not explained by general market movement. It is avoidable through diversification. So, what is diversification? Why you have to diversify your portfolio and everything, that also you have to learn. So, diversification means I would like to give you one example for that one. Suppose you have a company and you are producing only one item. So, if there is no demand in the market, then obviously it affects your profitability. But if you diversified your product, means instead of one, you are producing five items. So obviously your profit comes from five different products. So for one product, if market is not responding nicely, even though you can enjoy profit because other four items will give you enough profit. So that is diversification on for your product. This diversification of your portfolio. So why we have to diversify, which are the methods that we will learn afterwards. So keep in mind these things. So total risk is equal to systematic risk plus unsystematic risk. Both risk you have to count and then do some total of both risk is equal to your total risk. So systematic risk is due to influence of external factors on an organization. Many external factors affect your organization right now due to corona. That effect is not only for your organization, but it is universal effect. So that is external factor. You can't do anything for that one. Then such factors are normally uncontrollable from an organization's point of view. You can take precautionary measure. You can save your staff. You can save your family members, but you can't save or you can't control the total population or entire population. So, if the government lock down the economy or any city or anything, then obviously people are unable to move out. If there is no people, then who will buy your product? We have one alternative, that is online uh, marketing, but it is also affected. So these are uncontrollable by the organization. Another thing is systematic risk is a macro in nature, means affects to maybe total economy or at an international level in nature, as it affects a large number of organizations operating under a similar stream or same domain. Similar stream means their business and their product are same as your products. So it may possible that due to some reason some products company can sell, or you learn in next session we will learn the life cycle of the industry. In that one some industries they are in a declining stage, and some industries they are in a growing stage. So all companies in the declining stage category they will affect, but the companies who are in developing state they will not affect. So this is similar stream or same domain. This is the meaning of this one. It cannot be planned by the organization, and you can't plan for that one because you are under that category. Then types of risk. Under the group of systematic risk, you can divide into three categories. One is interest rate risk, second one is market risk, and third one is purchasing power or inflation risk. So these three risks we have to study in detail. So when anybody will ask you about the systematic risk, that time give the meaning of systematic risk and then explain these three types of risk. In that one also there are another types of risk. So let's try to understand first of all systematic and unsystematic risk with the help of diagram. Now this is asset and this is, so first of all this line black line that is there, and this is blue line. This blue line you can consider as total risk, total risk of organization. Total means systematic risk plus unsystematic risk. Now this line is for systematic risk, means this much risk any organization is supposed to bear. None of the organization can minimize this systematic risk. Now, this line is on systematic risk. Now, see the blue line. Blue line, previously, the total risk was too high, but with the help of diversification and good management policy, you can minimize it. Minimize, but it never be a systematic risk. It is always, total risk is always higher than systematic risk. So, again, see the last point of your blue line. It is above than systematic risk. Means total risk equal to systematic plus unsystematic, but you can minimize unsystematic risk, so you can minimize your total risk also with the help of proper diversification and proper management policy. Or you can add, if you can minimize your operational and other expenses, then also you can minimize at least your unsystematic risk. And this diagram you have to remember till death. Now we learn types of risk, in that one systematic risk and unsystematic risk. So first of all let's try to understand systematic risk. Systematic risk is due to inflation. If government is unable to control the inflation, that time prices of the commodities will increase. So obviously the cost of raw material will increase, cost of labor will increase. Same way, cost of capital will also increase because as per the inflation rate, government changes interest rates, both deposit rate as well as lending rate. So capital will be costly. So systematic risk affects total economy. And in this concept, try to understand if our government is unable to manage the inflation and other government is able to manage inflation, that time what will happen in your economy? Inflation rate is comparatively higher than that economy, so your currency will also depreciate. So those who are associated with international business, so they have to affect because your domestic currency is depreciating. So you have to pay more money when you convert your currency into foreign currency. Let's interpret in a different manner. Suppose the other government is unable to manage the inflation and that country's inflation rate is higher than your country, your economy, then that currency will depreciate. So obviously, your currency will appreciate for that currency and you can enjoy the benefit also. But generally, we compare international currency, that is dollar. So in context of dollar, we have to understand the exchange rate and any other thing. So this is due to inflation. Second thing is interest rate. Right now, our government is not ready to increase the interest rate. Why? None of the government, not only Indian government, but none of the government can offer government services to all citizens. So obviously, if there are more private organizations, then people can join that organization and can earn something like that. So government wants to boost industrialists. So if you check 1980 and 90, that time interest rate only for this deposit, it was more than 14-15%, and lending rate was 21% and above that. But today normal rate of return is 6 to 7% and lending rate is 9 to 10%. So see the government policy. So government is ready to boost or to motivate industries. This is one of the reason. And interest rate affects the total economy, not only one organization. That's why it is systematic risk. Another thing is political risk. Political risk means political stability. Now, what is good for our economy that I would like to see? When Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, that time he introduced globalization. Then he was the prime minister. He continued the same policy. Then government changed, but that government also continued the same policy. So obviously government changed, but so far as economy is concerned, up to some extent, policy is good. Now, political risk means previously, what was the situation in our country? Suppose Congress is the ruling party, then they have their own policy. Now government change and BJP is the ruling party, then policies are different and there was no coordination between the policy. But right now, it is not so. So, in developed countries like America, if this is the ruling party or another is the ruling party, the policy makers are different. And any of the party, they have to follow that policy only. So if this will happen in our country, then obviously our economy will boost. And this government is trying their level best to develop the economy. That is also good for our economy. So if political risk is more, suppose in Pakistan, we got freedom simultaneously. But see the development of Indian economy and check, compare Pakistan economy. Compared to Indian economy, Pakistan economy is very, very poor. So obviously our governments, they are able to develop the economy, but in that economy, due to some other external and internal factors and psychology of the people as well as leader, they are unable to develop, and all the time they create nuisance to other economies also, and that is also one of the main thing for neighbor economies. Third one is market risk. Market risk means due to changes in the market or psychology of the people or purchasing power of the people. If opportunities are more, employment ratio is more, then people have more disposable income. If they have more disposable income, then they would like to buy so many things. But if their earnings are poor, then they have to spend majority of their income for bread and butter. So they are unable to spare more money for other things. But if their income is good and easily they can satisfy their bread and butter requirements, then they can spend more money for luxurious items. So market risk is also there. Right now also I gave you the idea that due to corona and lockdown, people are unable to buy, and that market risk affects everybody, not only one business or one industry. So this is known as market risk. And as soon as market will boost, they will also grow. Risk due to government policy. In political risk, I explain you the policy of the government. Right now, I am giving you one example. All these farmers, they are agitating. Why they are agitating? Many of the farmers, they have no idea about the government policy. So this is my personal opinion that I would like to share with you. See, suppose you are a producer, and if you have only one alternative to sell your goods, that time there is a buyer's monopoly, and you have to sell according to this that price and that willingness. But if you have another option that you can sell your goods to this or that, then obviously you can charge more prices. Same is the case for the farmers. They are telling us that we are poor. Since last 70 years and more than that, government is providing everything: fertilizer, seeds, water facility, electricity facilities at a subsidized rate. Even though you are unable to get break even point, why? There must be some defect in your production, or you are not ready to say your real income. And in this policy, what government highlighted, that government and all these middlemen, they have to pay the price as per their contract, and they have to deposit this money in their bank account. So anybody or the at least government can get the idea about their income. And all these monthly or you can say corporate societies, these middlemen, they have big storage house. They buy the goods and then they store in their godown. So they purchase crores of rupees for construction of this godown. And if the government will give free hand, then obviously these farmers they have the another substitute. Let's take the example of this food industry. So far as these potato chips are concerned, this company can directly buy potatoes from the farmers. No need for any other middleman. And that company has to deposit this price in their bank account. So the government can understand this much is his income. So they are not ready for that one. But we hope that problem will dissolve because the policy is really good. And what is the tragedy? The big farmers, their income is in crores of rupees, even though they have not to pay tax. And the service class, hardly per month, their salary is 15,000, even though they have to pay professional tax. So, this dissimilarities government has to remove and they have to do something for that one. So government is trying. Then another point is natural calamities, flood situation, earthquake. It affects total area, not partial. So far as economy is concerned, means our country is little bit big, so it may not affect the total economy. But suppose in Gujarat there is earthquake, so surrounding area will be affected. Then flood situation also affect. Then if there is a over monsoon or less monsoon, then it will affect. So natural calamities also affect the economy and it is one of the factor of systematic risk. Another one is scam. So for scam, remember Prasad Mehta. That time you won't believe. And if the government or the rural of the government, they are not interested to develop the economy, but they are interested to develop themselves also only. So their psychology is I sacrifice nation's interest in favor of my interest. So they do scam. And this scam amount you don't imagine it. So if government is little bit corrupt government, then nation will not develop. For every time, if suppose you want to take a license for your business, you have to pay money. If you want to get any certificate, you have to pay some bribe. That time it affects the economy. But this government is little bit good. For so many licensing and so many documents, they have a transparent system. And so far as our Surat city is concerned, we have online facilities for death certificate, for birth certificate, even for the complaint, we have online facilities. So at least the people can register the complaint. Otherwise, in olden days, if you want to give application against any of the incident, first of all, they ask for the money. If you pay, then only they will give you. So if there is no scheme, then it affects the business positively. And if the government is corrupt government, our office bearers or the bureaucrats, they are the corrupt person, then it affects adversely. So keep in mind these things. Another one is monsoon. If there is a over rain, it also affect and less rain or no rain that also affect the economy. But I would like to give another example for this one. What is the difference that I am telling you? You know, in our Gujarat, Kutch, there is no monsoon. Then thousands of acres of land, they are not cultivated land because there is no monsoon. So this government is planning to install solar panels in that area. Some companies came out, we assign MOU, and then they will generate electricity. So previously you can say that if there is no rain, then we can't use this land, but now it is not so. If you see the example of this another countries, then also they have no rain, but see, they purify the waste water and again they recycle it. And they can, Dubai is the one of the best example. They have good facilities. Even the monsoon is very poor. Hardly they enjoy that much rainfall compared to our country. But they have plants for recycling the water and they can dissolve this problem. So in olden days, monsoon was the main factor, but nowadays, up to some extent, we found out other alternatives. So the effect we have canal facilities. So up to some extent, we can minimize this risk. Then industrial growth. If industrial growth is good, then industrial growth means suppose textile industry growth. So all companies total growth, average growth is equal to industry growth. So if industry is growing, then all companies under that head will grow. Then international events all the time affects the total economy. So if your relationships with other countries are good, then obviously it affects positively. But if your relationship is poor or your neighbor countries are harassing you, then it affects the economy. Right now, this China and Pakistan, they are headache for our economy. And many times our politicians, they are also for their benefit, they are doing harm to our economy. So international events affect this one and our leaders also, if they have wrong policy, it also affects. And war-like situation. If there is a war-like situation, then obviously it affects the total economy. And not only one economy, it affects world economy. So far as war is concerned, since long back there is no world war. It doesn't mean that we have no worldwide effect. This corona is worldwide effect. So you can add one another element in systematic risk, that is corona for this situation, right? In future, it may be in a different form, but this situation, all these points, they affect systematic risk, and all forms have to bear it. No one can say that my firm or my company will not affect, and you can't minimize them. So keep in mind systematic risk. Now let's try to understand unsystematic risk. I told you that if your policy is good, if you are capable, you have knowledge, then up to some extent you can minimize unsystematic risk. Among them, first is business risk. That business risk we will try to understand in detail. Second one is financial risk. That also we are going to learn in detail. Third one is funding risk. That also we are going to learn in detail. Risk due to uncertainty, up to some extent, I explain you. Dispute. Dispute in business to business, business to government, that is also unsystematic risk. So this risk we are trying to learn. Among them, again, keep in mind there are five types. Among them, business risk is first one. So let's try to understand business risk. Business risk means that factors affect your business. Among them, first is internal business risk. Means internally there is some dispute, that is business risk. In marketing you learn internal business risk. Then fluctuation in sales. Obviously nobody can say that round the year my sales is equal, or for every month my sales is equal. No, it is not happening. So sales may reduce. For that, there are so many reasons. Suppose you are in a garment industry and you introduce one product, but that product for the first month gives good response, and the another company introduce another product at a cheaper rate, then obviously customer will buy that product. So immediately your sales may go down. Second thing is, it may be due to some other factors. Right now, in Diwali, generally, what is the expectation of the businessman? During the season, sales will go up. But this time in Diwali, it was not that much up because people were not ready to go out from them home. And government gave good awareness to the people that at your home, it is good for you. So this is also one of the factor. Another one is research and development. If in business research and development is more, then with a small time or with less time you have to modify your products. Otherwise no one will buy your products. Let's take the example of IT industry. You can say in Japan daily 2000 new fashions are coming in the market. You think about yourself. Suppose you purchased your mobile 1 year back and you got a handsome job. So obviously you would like to replace the mobile and you will buy new features mobile, not the same features mobile. And that time you will buy upgraded mobile. And in this sector, research and development is too speedy. If you see that when I bought first computer, the size was very big, like a dibba, and I spent 64,000 for that dibba, and it was DOS based system. Then Windows introduced in the market. In DOS, you have to remember many commands and all these things. And right now, means 2 years back, I purchased touchscreen laptop. The cost is 50,000. So this is this sector in which new technology you can enjoy with a cheaper rate also, because the competition is too high and research and development activities are also too high. So if you will not sell your product today, then tomorrow you may be unable to sell it. So that is business risk. So you are in which business that you have to consider. And as per the type of the business, you have to take the decision. Then personal management. If personal management is good, then obviously you can minimize the business risk. If your personal management is poor, then obviously your business has to suffer. Then fixed cost. If the fixed cost of the business is more, then less people will enter. If there is no fixed cost, then more businessmen will enter. So if you see that power generation system and power industry, real manufacturers are very less and distributors are also very less. And for generation and distribution, very less companies are there because fixed cost is too high. Same way, check iron and steel industry. Fixed cost is too high. So many times what happens? To get back break even point, they have to spend more than 5 7 years. So for 5 and 7 years, they have to work. Then only they will get break even point, and afterwards they can enjoy profit. So fixed cost is one thing. Then single product. That I explained you that if you have only single product, then risk is more. If your products are diversified, means you are producing more products, then risk is less. Because if one product will not generate the profit, other products will compensate that one. And you can stop that product and you can share this capacity for other products. Now, external risk, these are the internal risk and business external risk. First one is social factors. Many social factors affects the business. If suppose one group or one community have the market in their hands and they are whole and soul for the market, then if they have very nice coordination, see, they can capture the market. It may possible vice versa that the other communities people will boycott that product, so they may go down. So this is social factor, change of the psychology, change of the mindset. Then political factors. If government is favoring some industry and disfavoring other industries, that time it affects externally. But generally, none of the government is partial because they have to develop the economy. But it may possible that government gives more relaxation to some industries. Right now, this government policy is what? If you establish your industry in rural area or remote area, government will give you benefit for tax deduction for 10 years. Another government may change the policy. So it is political factor, change of policy, this business cycle that I explained you. That pioneer stage, developing stage, maturity stage, and declining stage. In fundamental analysis, you have to learn all these stages in detail and with examples. So these are the factors which affect business internally and externally. Now, total risk diagram I explained you. This is number of securities in the portfolio and this is standard deviation of portfolio return. So factors unique to particular company or industry, for example, the death of key executive or loss of a government defense contract and all these things. So total risk and this portion you can only minimize with your capability and skill. So, for systematic risk, all these factors we will try to understand next time. Next time, I will share you the link and sorry for the inconvenience, but thank you very much for good response. Okay.